Hi, welcome to the podcast Ease into Clarity. I'm Dr. Divi, family doctor turned intuitive coach, and I'm here to help you. In this podcast, we will learn mental techniques, emotional techniques, and spiritual techniques to change daily problems. So maybe it's your husband, your boss, your coworker, your kids, they're driving you crazy. You can email me any of your questions and I will use all the techniques I've learned over the years and help you. Grab your hot chocolate and make sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon. Ciao. Hello, and thank you for joining us on the podcast Ease into Clarity. I'm your host, Dr. Divi, and thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have a lot of fun today because I have a guest on, and as you all know, I don't do guests very often, but I'm expanding. What can I say? So we have Raya Friesen. Raya is going to introduce herself, and she's an incredible at what she does, and we're going to continue the body conversation. So Raya, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Divi. Yes, my name's Raya, and I'm a holistic practitioner. I am located in North Vancouver, Canada, and I work with individuals who are ready to step out of the conventional model of care into the transformational space of wellness. So really honoring mind, body, and spirit. So my background is physiotherapy. I worked as a conventional physiotherapist for close to a decade. And about 4 years ago, started my own business, which is called Drift and Align. So now I blend the worlds. So I have my physio expertise and I blend it with holistic modalities. So energy work, body work, breath work to really support all aspects of someone's wellness.
I love that. Thanks, Raya. And it's ironic for listeners. Raya connected with me a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, by email. We've known each other for a long time. We connected about a month or two ago. She sent me an email, and it was ironic because I was at the same time getting the intuitive nudge to do a podcast series on the body. So today's podcast is about the body, and Raya and I are going to spitfire back and forth about the body, our experiences. Like you all know, I used to be a physician, transitioned to this work because of my own health issues and watching lots of other people. So in a lot of ways, we have a lot of stuff that's similar. So
very much, yes.
Amazing. So let's talk about pain. How's that? Because I know that's something you deal a lot with. I've got some experience in pain too. So why do you think, I'll start with this first question that's coming in. And why do you think people freak out when they have pain? And what do you think people with pain want the most?
Great question. I think pain is so interesting, right? Pain, I feel like, is the way the body communicates. Sensation is our main way the body comes through, and it's like something is out of alignment. So usually pain will happen. And when we feel physical pain, usually it starts with a whisper before it gets louder. But sometimes we don't want to, or we're not aware of the whispers, or we want to distract. We don't want to go there. So oftentimes I think when pain comes up for people, it can be scary to look at because we don't really love being uncomfortable. We want to find ease, alignment. We love the feeling of flow, and pain disrupts that, which, we could distract, yet it will keep getting louder and louder and louder unless we pause and tune in and listen as to what's coming through it and why it's coming up for us.
What's ironic is we met around pain as well.
We did. So that was back when I was a conventional physio. I was going through a huge transition in my life. I just exited my marriage and I had chronic shoulder pain for about 2 years. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. I was sick of it. And then I had a friend that recommended your work. And at that time, I didn't identify as spiritual. And I just went in and we had a session and you linked my shoulder pain to my mother wound. And within one session, I walked out of there and my shoulder felt amazing. And that just opened up everything for me. I was like, whoa, wait, is pain not just something is hurt in the physical body? There must be something more. And that opened the doors, the floodgates for me. So I'm very grateful.
Oh, thank you. And Raya told me this when we went for a walk the other day, and I don't remember it. So that's cool. But now to bring that forward so that so everybody understands who's listening. I mean, I was the same. I had no idea that my chronic pain was associated to emotions. And it's sort of like, as healthcare practitioners that we both have been and are, it's almost like we get hit to work through our stuff to help others.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I really feel that moving forward in my journey too, when things keep coming up, it's like, oh, beautiful. This is bringing this into my field. So I learn a new tool or technique to support others. And I think that's so beautiful.
And I'm not sure why this question's coming in, but if I get asked this question when I'm being interviewed in a lot of podcasts, I'm gonna ask it to you.
Hmm.
What if you had to name one emotion that causes pain? Like you only were allowed to have one, maybe two. What would you say it is?
Fear.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
And have you noticed why do you think people get stuck in fear, they get stuck in their body?
Mm. It's familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that perhaps it, yeah, it kind of keeps us feeling there's something comforting about fear and discomfort. Like we can seek help outside of ourselves. We like seek out and we look for someone to hold us in times of need, which is really beautiful. Yet we have all the answers within us. And like I said before, pain is our body's way of telling us, it's communicating, hey, something's not quite right. I'm asking for your love and your attention here. And that can be scary because once you start, the way I look at things, if we're going to transform something, then there's an invitation to go deeper on an imprint level. And once you start looking at an imprint level, it can be scary because who knows what you're going to find? You're going to open Pandora's box, right? And that can it can make us feel unstable or shaky with the unknown, right?
Totally. And speak to the fear for a second. I'm gonna go back to the imprint stuff. I think most people don't realize, like I know when I teach workshops, most people don't realize that the dominant emotion on the planet is fear, powerlessness. Most people don't
Mm,
realize that they kind of know it, but you don't even realize that that's a choice. You turn the
mm,
TV, turn the news on, watch common traffic downtown, listen to
yeah.
conversations. If you're ever in doubt, just sit in the mall and overhear conversations and just listen. And there's a dominance of fear and
Hmm.
powerlessness and grief and guilt. And I think most people don't realize that just thinking that way as an adult, they don't realize that's your choice.
Hmm.
What do you think?
Hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah. And the more I've done this work, and I realize that when people can come out of the mind and into the body, that's when we begin to shift things because the mind will just jump into story based on past experiences, based on, like you just spoke to, what we're absorbing in our surroundings, right? And like the first thing that I teach people, well, maybe not the first thing, but we talk about a morning ritual and an evening ritual because a lot of people will start their morning with the news on
Right. Or grabbing
or
the
go to
phone.
bed and they are watching the highlights. Exactly. Start scrolling, the doom scrolling, right? Where if we just let that go and we just tune into what the body needs before bed, we likely will be more restful,
Right.
right?
Right. And I find it
Yeah.
interesting because, again, most people don't realize that when the body hurts like that, it's not because they're bad. It's not because they held their purse
Right.
wrong. It's not because they caught something they shouldn't have caught. It's not because they got in a bad car accident that causing their pain, but it's because, and people take this as like they've done something wrong, but it's because we're dominant emotion is fear. But we have to realize you haven't done anything wrong. You've been trained that way. You've been trained to think this way, right? And we're
Mhm.
trained by our parents and society, like we train a dog. So we have to untrain that. That's what I always think the body is talking to us for, to tell us.
Yes. And when we can look at that as a gift,
Mm,
right? Like when something occurs, it's not happening to us, it's
right.
happening for us. Like, wow, what an amazing opportunity. Now we get to learn to connect with ourselves in a new way. We get to learn what the body really needs. We get to try out this modality and see if it supports us, this mindset, this meditation, whatever it is, and learn more about ourselves. So when we're on our wellness journey, when we can invite in curiosity and being open to do something differently, think differently, it's magic happens, miracles happen,
Really cool.
right?
So let's banter back and forth about specific illnesses because we both worked
Yeah.
with lots of them. So I know you do a lot of spine stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
so yeah,
yeah,
my
go ahead.
background is working through or with a method called the Schroth method.
Right.
So when I was a conventional physio, I did almost exclusively spine work for about 7 years. So working with scoliosis and other spine conditions. So do you want to go there
Yeah,
first?
let's
Yes.
banter back and forth. So what
Okay.
I can tell you my experience with scoliosis. I've got myself.
Please.
But what do you sense is the predominant emotions? Because some people are tuning into like, they're curious. Okay, if I have
Hmm.
this shoulder pain, what's the sun emotions? Let's do scoliosis first. What's in your experience?
So this is my one of my favorite topics. So I think of this spine as like it represents our stability,
Right.
right? Like how stable we feel. It's our central channel, right? This is how the space in which we bring energy in and down into the body and ground it into reality. And when I think about scoliosis, and you can think about the directionality of the curve, left or right. And you've spoken to this before, right? The left side is the feminine nature, our connection with mother, and then right side our doing, and that's our masculine connected to the father. So I look at that as stability. How safe and stable did we feel growing up?
Mm.
Right? Did we feel held? Did we feel like we could turn to our mother or father and we would be. And so it's really interesting with scoliosis. Scoliosis, the type that I mainly see is idiopathic, or the medical system
Right.
has labeled it idiopathic. And we know that idiopathic simply means unknown cause.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, okay, when there's unknown causes, and when there is, there's an energetic or an emotional component.
Right.
So then I'm curious your thoughts about it, but I've always thought around the spine being stability and safety specifically in childhood when we have those moments of imprinting early on.
I agree. I think the only thing I'd add to that, what I've seen again, I mean, this is, just an energetic, what I've always seen metaphysically is like, because scoliosis, if you don't know, is like an S-shaped curvature spine. It's like the spine should go vertically, like Ray is saying, but there's an S shape. So just imagine what that looks like. So my experience is like we're being pulled in opposite directions, feminine, masculine, lack of security, lack of stability, but we're either pulled this way or that way and don't feel centered. Right. And so some, because scoliosis can go in so many different ways. What I've seen is it sort of depends which side is pulled on, also if you're right-handed or left-handed. So I think it varies specifics person to person, but exactly, I think we're talking the same language, just totally the same.
For sure. And it's really unique because the way I understand it, there are 4 main curve types. So some people don't have the S shape.
Right.
Some people will just have like the right thoracic or the right lumbar, so one direction as well.
Right. Let's jump to another health issue that we commonly both see because we're both women. Painful periods. What do you got? Why do women get painful periods?
Yeah, so I look at this through 2 lenses, right? The emotional component and the physical structures around the area. So when we look at periods or menstruating and our bleeds, it's very connected to our womb space, which is our portal for creation. And that space is where we can hold a lot in that area. And so I often see women who have been navigating some sort of physical abuse or have had, often if periods are really painful, that means that they're having a deep purge, like they're moving through something big, something energetic that's ready to leave the body. Right. And so I think there's a common misconception with menstruation that it's going to be painful, that women are going to be grumpy, that our energy is going to be all over the place. Sure, maybe all of that can occur, yet what's typical and what's like when things are flowing with ease, it's not meant to be painful, right? We as women have this unique opportunity once a month where we get to actually physically and energetically purge things from our body in this unique way. So I've noticed in myself and in clients that when I'm going through a lot of things, when I'm moving through big imprints or big emotions in that month, my bleed might be more uncomfortable than on other months when I feel like I'm in more flow or there's maybe more ease in what I'm navigating in my emotional environment.
Nice. The other thing I've seen in addition to what you just said is essentially, if I made it really simple, because I love simple, if the 3 weeks leading up to your cycle that you bleed, you're basically not processing your thoughts and emotions and kind of just either bypassing or just shoving them in, and not simply working through them. Like having a fight with your partner, but not saying what you want to say. Being mad about something, say at work, and not speaking your truth, right? It's like you're not letting that emotion move through your body. Emotion is energy motion. So it's just stuck. It's stuck. And I find personally, but also working with so many clients, the feminine energy, like I find a lot of people with painful periods, they'll be like, they can't step into their feminine. They can't own their worth. They can't own their truth. They have to dismiss their femininity for some reason. And as a result, it builds and builds and builds. And each of us are different. So everybody's story around their feminine, their mother, and so on is different. So that's what I've always seen with painful periods.
Oh, interesting. I'm thinking too around the physicality of it. So oftentimes when someone's navigating scoliosis or low back pain or something, which I'm sure we'll get to, the main organ that's associated with our reproductive system are the kidneys.
Right.
So, you look at that back body line where they run, and if the energy is dense or stuck, then now you're having physical tension in the back. And I see this also in the inner thighs, the adductors around the pelvis, and you can start really seeing the density in the muscle system too. So as we move that energy, we allow ourselves, like you said, to express our feminine, to feel our feelings, to speak out when we're angry or whatever it is, then we can remove that energy or let it start to flow with more ease and start releasing the physical structures around that too.
Totally. Let's do a couple other health issues just
yes.
for clients. You mentioned back pain, so let's do lower back pain. Very common, obviously.
Do you want to start on this one? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so it depends, but lower back, because I always go with the chakras. The lower back, if somebody's like sort of wondering where is that, that's like right above your sacrum, like right when people say lower back pain, they grab their lower back. That's what I'm talking about. So the lower back tends to be our grounding energy, our connection with Mother Earth, who we are as a human, like what we're like, our feeling of who we are on the planet, our identity. Then also financial, right? So I've seen a lot of people with lower back issues when they lose their jobs. They've not only lost their identity, they've also lost their money. Or when they're going through a divorce, because that's it was their identity. Or or when they lose their sense of independence, that's money, person stuff. So lower back, in my experience, is usually money, self-independence, who I am. Those kinds of things, what I've already seen.
Amazing. Yeah, I would say something very similar. That's what I've seen. And also, like you spoke to, and just highlighting safety, right? If you feel safe in your body, which how many people can say they spend most of their day in their body?
Sure.
I don't know, right? So part of that, the work that you're teaching people, the mind coming into the body, is what I do through embodiment, is just that, is when you can actually learn how to come into the body and ground and activate the lower chakras, then the upper ones open and you're flowing. There's alignment, there's ease, right? There's clarity.
I love it. Right? All right, you get to choose one more. Pick one more. So many, right?
Yeah, there's so many. We had talked about potentially autoimmune, and I'm curious about your thoughts on that one.
Sure.
Yeah.
So autoimmune is a fun one. So the body fighting itself is autoimmune. So autoimmune meaning autoimmune. So you're fighting you, right? So whether that be rheumatoid arthritis, hypothyroid, it's basically a thought form that you've got going on, and the specific thought form will create different illnesses in the body. But you've got a thought form going on that you're beating yourself up. So for example, how many times a day do women or men think, oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I'm too fat. Oh, there's something wrong with me. Oh, I can't speak my truth. So depending on the specifics of that thought form, that there's something wrong with me, ends up which autoimmune it is. So a common one that I've seen a lot is thyroid. Is like, I can't speak my truth. I have to shut my throat for peace or safety, or I'm just not allowed to. That's a common hypothyroid, which is an autoimmune condition, and we could do a lot of that. But guilt is they say in A Course in Miracles that guilt is the main cause of all illnesses. And guilt is, I've done something wrong. And specifically when we think I'm wrong or something like, we're fighting ourselves, in my world, that's been autoimmune. What about yourself, Raya?
It's interesting because I don't have that level of knowledge around autoimmune in general, just because the background is physiotherapy. Right. Yet I do support people who are navigating arthritis and other conditions. So it's interesting to hear you speak of the energetics behind it, because this is slightly new information for me too, and how that presents in the body. Right. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, we probably could put a whole panel together of people who have you know what I mean? And banter
oh my goodness,
one or two illnesses and just, because that's all overlap. The more you talk to people, the more you'll find there's a lot of
yeah, even just an autoimmune, like when you said thyroid, I can't tell you how many women that I work with have issues with thyroid and connected to throat chakra, like you spoke to, right? Like it's fascinating when you start learning the root of physical, right? Like you said, that emotion is energy emotion. And when that emotion we don't feel safe to feel it, or we don't allow ourselves to express it, we want to distract instead, then that emotion that was once flowing with ease now creates density. And density is what, in my experience, causes dis-ease or discomfort in the body. So
question. You said we distract ourselves. Why do you think people, the work we're talking about it's been around for a long time.
For sure.
Popular since Louise Hay's book, Heal Your Life. So it's not new. Why do you think, because we both probably know a lot of people in the same realm of this world, go into the metaphysical bookstore, New Age bookstore, it's massive nowadays, and chapters ready to go. So why do you think people have an awareness but still find themselves falling into this rabbit hole? What do you think?
It's a great question. I think there's multi-layers to this. Yeah, what's coming to me is what I said at the start around fear of what they'll find.
Got it.
And if you're used to feeling suffering, you're used to feeling fear, it can be
Right.
really scary when things are flowing with ease.
Totally.
And like, oh, there's no drama. I'm comfortable. Something comes up, I just take the space, I feel it, I acknowledge it, I feel it, I move through it. That's simple. Yet I think that can be scary because that's a pattern that people have known for their potentially their whole lives or lifetimes. Right?
Right. I agree. I also think people are afraid of, I think you kind of alluded to this, upsetting the apple cart. So like
Yeah.
if I address this, maybe this impacts my marriage, or maybe if I address this, maybe this will impact my best friend. If I address
Yeah.
this, maybe da 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 da. And they're
Hmm.
afraid of the maybe. I
Hmm.
think people often don't realize that if your body's hurting, and we're talking about pain,
Hmm.
or really any illness, you kind of alluded to it, it's going to hit once, knock once, get louder twice, get louder 3 times, right? And I
Hmm.
think people assume feeling that emotion is going to be harder than it really is. It's like, yeah, I feel it all next.
Yeah. And it's okay to feel uncomfortable,
Totally.
right? Just to allow yourself to feel and cry and move and whatever needs to happen to move it. It's okay. I love, like I said, inviting in that curiosity of like, okay, when I remove this density, when I feel this feeling and the energy is moving with ease, what am I creating space for? As I raise my vibration, what is the universe now going to send me?
Right.
Like, what am I going to create? Who am I going to meet? So through the lens of curiosity, feels more easeful through my opinion.
Right.
Yet I do acknowledge that like patterns can be challenging to break, yet with the right support and mindset and guide, it's there can be ease in that too. It doesn't have to be hard.
I think what we're also like pulling up here, I think hopefully anyone listening to this can relate to this. What we're essentially doing is we're flipping the idea that pain is bad into pain can be exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Use the word curious. I say exciting. Same stuff, right? Because
Yes.
it's like there's something your soul is calling you to, which is super exciting if you're willing to dive in, right? There's something exciting out
Yes.
of that.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Whereas like through my lens, when someone going through physiotherapy school, it's like pain is like you're trying to get rid of it. You're trying to help the
right,
person get rid of it as quickly as possible. And so I just always thought pain was bad for a
right.
long time. And then I was teaching clients like, okay, you got to get rid of it. This is what you have to do. This is the reps, the number of sets, etc. I just like threw all that out. I'm like, no, no, wait, reframe. Pain is our guide. Pain is here to teach us. So once we learn the language of our body, that's really such an empowering thing. And that's what we're both teaching in our own ways, empowering people to learn that they have all the answers within them.
Totally.
And if they need support, we're here, yet they can figure it out. Their
Curious,
body knows.
have you noticed more and more people turning to this type of work?
Yes. And I think that's why my business and the timeline of what I've created in my medicine now came to life when it did.
Right.
Because, in the last couple of years specifically, it's very different navigating, even saying the word spirit and emotion and energy and all of that. It's way more comfortable to
Oh yeah.
speak it more commonplace now.
Yeah. It's like you can't scroll social media, at least on my feed.
My feed too,
I gotta
yeah.
see it at least 10 times a minute, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want
Yeah.
to share anything else before I ask you to tell us about where they can find you? Do you want to share anything else about
Hmm.
the topic we're having?
Hmm. Yeah, just reiterating that, when something comes up in the body, when you feel physical discomfort, we'll say pain, there's an invitation here for you to pause, acknowledge your body. And I feel like when you're in that place of acknowledgement and noticing what you feel, to actually have this self inquiry with the body, being like, body, what would feel nourishing for you? What do you need? And then listen. And then what you hear, can you take intentional action from that place? And it's a simple step, but I find it's really powerful because the more and more you do that, the mind won't be the driver.
Right.
The body will, the soul will. And that's a really powerful place to be.
So
Yeah.
love that. And do you want to share where people can find you and how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. So my business is called Drift and Align. I'm on social media at Raya Friesen. And yeah, I offer support for those who are ready to dive deeper into all things mind, body, spirit. I'm on the North Shore, but I do offer online sessions to wherever people are in the world. And perhaps I can give you some links, Dr. Divi, and you can just link it below for people. I'd love to share more. And thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Well, thank you. That was so fun. That was so fun. I really appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys want more information, I will link it. Well, my assistant will link it because I don't know how to do that. We'll link it. And yeah, thank you, Raya, so much for throwing this out there. I love it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Divi, and all the magic that you offer to this world. I'm so grateful.
Thank you. And this is Dr. Divi at the podcast Ease into Clarity, and thank you for joining us so much. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast, Ease into Clarity. It is such a joy, pleasure, and honor to be in your living room. What I would love is if you follow me on Instagram, DRDIVI, or go to my website, drdivi.com, or write a review. That would be even more amazing. Thank you. If you really enjoyed this podcast, feel free to share it with friends, family, tell them to follow me, because I think the more of us that listen to the fact that each of us can start to shift, each of us can shift mental things, emotional things, spiritual shift, to shift our daily reality. When more and more of us do it, we get a better planet. We get more love. We get more happiness. We get more joy. So I'd love it if you followed. I'd love it if you shared this, because it would be such a joy and an honor. And again, if you have a question, guess what? I'm here for you. So send me an email, easeintoclarity@gmail.com. And as they come in, I will answer them in podcasts that are subsequent, whether it be your boss, your relationship, your husband, whatever. That's what I'm here for. Because the more of us that learn really simple mental techniques, really simple spiritual techniques, we change the physical reality we live in. Pretty soon, we have more peace, more ease, more joy trickling across the whole world. Remember, there's a spiritual solution for every problem. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.